Hi, I'm Michael Wan, your host for Michael Wan's Op-Ed Live. The corrupt mainstream media. That is the topic of today's op-ed. You know, I've been following American politics closely since the 90s, and you know what I noticed? I have never ever seen the American media being so corrupt as it is right now. It is truly one of the biggest tragedies that is going on in America today. Many people still get a lot of their daily dose of news from the mainstream media. The bias in reporting has been happening for quite some time. Now, I supported Bill Clinton and Barack Obama in the past. I'm an independent. I'm not a registered Republican or a Democrat. But it is hard to see the media always, and I mean always, cheering for one side and criticize the other. Of course, they always cheer for the left and the Democrats and always go after the Republicans and conservatives. And of course, they are almost always 100% against President Donald Trump. You know why majority of the people don't believe the media anymore? Because people know that they are biased. According to the recent Pew Research, only 32% believe the media. And according to Politico Morning Consult poll, 46% of voters believe the news media fabricate news stories about Donald Trump and his administration. But it seems like the media doesn't care about how people think. They are living in this bubble, an echo chamber that is filled with liberal, far-left ideology. And whatever the conservatives and Republicans comes up with, the media is always more than ready to trash them. And of course, Donald Trump can never be normalized in their mind. You might have already heard the coverage of Donald Trump has been more than 90% negative on ABC, CBS, and NBC, which is a travesty when you consider that many people still, to this day, consume a lot of their news in these major networks. And I didn't even mention CNN and MSNBC. How about the New York Times and Washington Post? I can't even remember when they stood up for conservatives. But when I opened the papers today, I can say for sure that they are definitely standing up for the liberals. The way how ABC World News covered the Michael Flynn news last year is a classic example of biased news. Remember when ABC reported that former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn would testify that President Trump had directed him to make contact with Russian officials while Trump was still a candidate? They claimed that it was an error, but I truly believe that it was not. This was an agenda-driven fake news. They did not verify the news before they ran it. Brian Ross, the chief investigative correspondent for ABC News, has been suspended for 4 weeks without pay for this incident. ABC said that they had not fully vetted through their editorial standards process. If so, then why did they put it out in the first place? And there are plenty of people who remember these kind of shenanigans. I promise you, people would talk about this incident for years to come. People remember these kind of nonsense. And more people are noticing this kind of garbage coming out from the mainstream media. The media now is essentially a secular, progressive, agenda-driven machine. The truth is this: the Democrats and the liberal media, they are one and the same. Their editorials and talking points are exactly the same as the Democrats' agenda and campaign promises. Just turn on your TV or open your morning papers, and it will be very hard for you to find a difference. Probably other than Fox News and Wall Street Journal, it is safe to say that all other media outlet leans left. Just ask MSNBC's Chris Matthews. I asked him, and he told me that, yeah, of course, majority of the media do lean left. And believe me, there are people who consciously do not pick up the New York Times or the Washington Post. Because you know why? Because they reject these kind of reporting and editorials that so offends middle America's belief system. Which brings us to the Russia scandal. We need to cover this Russia scandal fairly because it has been one of the biggest news for the past 2 years. And yet people still ask me a lot, so what is the Russia scandal? Well, let me make it easy for you to understand. There are 2 Russia scandals that are in play right now. One, I believe, is a complete fabricated Hillary Clinton's bought and paid for fake news. And the other Russia scandal is as real as it gets. First, let's talk about the Donald Trump campaign Russia collusion. The Democrats and their friends in the mainstream media and the deep state has been digging up for almost 2 years about this. And so far, they don't have a smidgen of evidence that there was any kind of Trump-Russia collusion. No single witness and no single evidence has emerged after all the FBI and special counsel investigation. That is why the special counsel pretty much gave up on the collusion issue and is going for obstruction of justice. I would say this, you can't find something if it's not there. And if something was there, it would have already emerged by now. It's like you are trying to find a unicorn in this world. Oh, but unicorns doesn't exist in this world. The only reason why this Russia scandal came about is plain and simple. Because Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC came up with a fraud, fabricated Russia dossier. The dossier is just bogus. It's 100% fabricated. This dossier, I believe, essentially launched the whole Russia collusion investigation. They just couldn't stand the fact that Donald Trump, a TV reality star, a candidate they mocked, and a real estate mogul, won the presidency. It's simple as that. So they are using this nonsense, the Russia collusion, to undermine his administration. The mainstream media has an addiction. The addiction is hating on Trump. And it's getting out of control. And they are in panic mode, scared that their whole Russia narrative is blowing up in their face. In the meantime, there are evidences piling up on the other side, which the mainstream media completely refuses to cover. It is becoming clear that the Department of Justice and the FBI interfered with the presidential election. And yes, there was a Russia collusion, but it didn't come from the Trump campaign side. It came on the Democrat side. In case you didn't know, the Department of Justice launched an investigation against Hillary Clinton. One is against Clinton Foundation, and the other one is the email scandal. Yeah, they reopened that email server scandal. Remember? She destroyed her cell phone with a hammer and used BleachBit to eliminate 33,000 emails. Yeah, that scandal. And just because the mainstream media is not covering it doesn't mean that this investigation is not happening. And let me tell you one tip about the mainstream media. If they don't like the story, they simply would not cover it. Let me give you some examples. For instance, the domestic terrorist Bill Ayers Obama connection scandal. How about the Acorn scandal? The Fast and Furious scandal? IRS scandal? Probably many of you heard about these scandals for the first time. And I would say this, if Trump administration were involved with all these kind of scandals, they would have been already calling for his impeachment. And sometimes they would be forced to cover these news every once in a while, but not to the extent that they would cover, like for instance, the Trump-Russia collusion. When a story fits their narrative, they overplay it. But if it doesn't, then they would cover the story probably on the back page of the New York Times, if you are lucky. How about probably the biggest scandal of them all, the Uranium One scandal? Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration approved the Uranium One deal. This is undisputable. It happened during the Obama administration. Probably many of you have never even heard about it because it wasn't properly covered by the media. So Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, decides to give 20% of American uranium to Russia. The Clinton Foundation got $145 million from a Russian businessman. And not just that, Bill Clinton got $500,000 for a one-time speech in Russia, double the amount of his usual speech fees. Well, an FBI informant is planning to blow up everything. It is told that he has emails, recordings, and documents regarding the Uranium One scandal. He has insider information that America's national security was compromised during the Obama administration. Where is this on the New York Times? Where is the Washington Post on this? Where is CNN? Where is MSNBC? Now, Hillary doesn't just have one Russia scandal. She has another Russia scandal looming all over her. The Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee paid over $12 million to help fund the fake Russia-linked Christopher Steele dossier. You know where Christopher Steele got that so-called P-Gate dossier? From Russians. And Christopher Steele is a former MI6 agent from Great Britain. This dossier has been proven to be fabricated. It's so fake that even Steele didn't bother to verify it. Now, theirs is your real Russia collusion that the mainstream media is not talking about. So in a sense, Hillary and Obama camp has been framing Donald Trump all along for the past 2 years, while on the way brainwashing the American people. And yes, they were doing the exact Russian collusion things, the things that they accused of Trump doing. You know what I call this? This is called evil, a scheme so heinous that whoever sees through the cloud of lies can't help but have their blood pressure go up. Can you believe this nonsense? How can America allow this to even happen? How did America go down like this? The Justice Department released 2016 text messages that were sent between the then FBI lead investigator and the former special counsel lead investigator, Peter Strzok, and his mistress, FBI lawyer Lisa Page. The text shows tremendous hatred toward Donald Trump. Hating on Trump is okay, and of course, hating on somebody is not illegal. But if you see the content of the text messages between these two, you can't help but notice how alarming it is. And Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, they were lovers. They were having an affair. It seems very likely at this point that their hatred had become a full-blown anti-Trump, hey, we have got to find a way to impeach him just in case he wins the presidency kind of scheme. Peter Strzok was the one who changed the words grossly negligent to extremely careless in James Comey's former FBI Director James Comey's July 2016 public exoneration of Hillary Clinton's email investigation, which, by the way, James Comey started writing about the exoneration even before their team even interviewed Hillary Clinton. Where is the mainstream media on this? So it all boils down to this: Christopher Steele's Russian dossier. An opposition research firm, Fusion GPS, financed by the Clinton campaign, came up with it with the help of Christopher Steele, which he got from Russia. Did Clinton campaign just finance the dossier, or did they also feed information to make that bogus dossier in order to have the FBI wiretap the Trump campaign? You know, Trump campaign associate named Carter Page. They wiretapped him. This is the crux of this entire matter. And how can Peter Strzok lead both Trump campaign Russia collusion case and also Hillary email scandal? Was he the only capable and intelligent guy to tackle these tasks? And why did Peter Strzok edit FBI's judgment of Hillary's handling of her emails to extremely careless from grossly negligent? And why aren't the mainstream media covering this? Even though I know the mainstream media all rooted for Hillary, like they all rooted for Barack Obama, I think it's time for them to do their job every once in a while. Facts are facts. Because the most important thing in this whole debacle is that it's not who's left or who's right. It's about whether you are right or wrong. Let's just all hope that real justice will be served this time around.